how to cut your own layers at home, and this is going to be focused on women's hair. I will do one specifically for men's haircuts, but if you are one of those people who has to cut your own hair at home, then this is going to be a very in-depth, step-by-step tutorial for you. I, as a hairstylist, always suggest going to another licensed professional, but I get so many emails and messages from women all across the world asking me if I can do a video to teach them how to cut their own hair or layers at home. Here's the biggest challenge, right? And this is going to be a whole thorough, me talking nonstop video, so make sure you're comfortable, you're ready to actually do a haircut, or you want to just watch this over once and then watch it, but this is very, very important. It's very hard for me to teach what's taken me 25 years to learn, not even perfect, but I'd say learn well enough to do these types of really nice haircuts. 25 years. And for me to be able to teach someone, I mean, yes, I feel very confident in my teaching abilities. I have a passion for teaching, and I probably can teach you how to cut your hair. That's the whole point of this video. But just keep in mind that if you're not a licensed professional and you don't understand certain types of, verbiage or terminology, then you may have some challenges. But I'm going to make this as simple as I possibly can for you. I'm not giving all sorts of trade secrets away, but this is really designed for people that, if you have to cut your hair yourself, if you've had challenges in the past with other people that can't cut your hair straight or whatever, then this is going to help you. All right. So first things first, what are you going to need? Firstly, you're going to need hair, right? If you have a full head of hair, that comes in handy, unlike me. Anyway, get used to the bad jokes, people. Get used to the bad jokes. You're going to need a few things. One is a hair cutting comb, like so. I do sell these on my website, shop.thesalonguy.com. I have them in white and red, and they sell, actually people buy them. This is what I use when I cut hair. So I'm not selling you something that I don't use. I actually use this. And you're going to need a variety of clips or, whatever types of clips you have, right? Whether they're butterfly clips, alligator clips. In the description in this video is a link to my Amazon shop page where I have the tools that I use as a stylist, which you can, buy. But you need something to section the hair so you can have a good roadmap when you're cutting. You're going to also need a pair of shears. Now, here's the thing is, I have professional shears, right, as a hairstylist, which tend to be very sharp. Can you execute this with a pair of crappy, scissors that a 4-year-old is going to use in pre-K? Probably not. So I'm going to suggest that you do invest in some sort of shear. Now, does it have to be, a $500 pair of scissors? No. Can you go on Amazon and look for hair cutting shears? I guess you can. But just make sure you have something that is very similar to a professional shear, but also be very careful because they're sharp and you can, maybe even will, cut yourself, and you have to be careful, all right? You're going to need the blow drying cream from my line, which I suggest, and also 25 spray. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wet this mannequin down, and I suggest doing this on wet hair just because it's going to make life a whole lot easier, and then I'll show you how to go about using the 25 spray. Chances are your hair may get a little bit knotty. 25 spray, the reason it's called 25 is because it has 25 benefits. This is my second best-selling product. I use this when I cut someone's hair, and the reason you should use it is mostly it helps with detangling. So if you've got really, really knotty hair, really long hair, and you have a hard time combing through it, this instantly, as you can see, helps remove the knots. And the next reason why you want to use this is because it keeps the hair moisturized and a bit more damp while you're cutting. So it's not going to dry as quickly, right? It's going to help keep the hair moist, which is what you want when you're cutting this. You want to make sure that, you're starting off with the hair wet and then it's okay if it dries over time when you're just about finished. That's how I cut hair anyway. I cut wet into dry. Now, the next thing you want to do is make sure that you part your hair wherever it is that it naturally parts. So for this demonstration, I'm going to part the hair as close to the middle as possible. It doesn't have to be exact, because you'll see when I'm sectioning the hair and showing you how to cut it, you're going to realize that as long as it's right in this panel, in this area, that's important. The next thing is you have to break the hair down and separate it into sections. So what I recommend doing is I always say find the high point of the head or the top of the head where it's the flattest. And if you put the comb, you'll see right there is where it's the flattest. And you want to create, this is why this little spacing is here, because it allows you to actually see where you're using the comb to create your sectioning. What is this doing? This is separating, and keep it very simple. It's separating the front here from the back. You want to make sure you're doing that, because with hair cutting, and especially doing this yourself, it's going to make life a whole lot easier, right, as you're cutting this. Then what I suggest doing, and this is why I said it's important to have a number of clips handy, is section this off. Just get it out of the way. And also what that's going to do is that's going to help you to see that, okay, this is the front, and then this is the back, all right? This is probably one of the most important things when it comes to any sort of haircut. So with hair cutting, right, what I usually do is I start off on the length, right? The length is how long the actual hair is going to be throughout the bottom here. If you're doing this yourself, the only way you can really cut length is, it's tough. This is why I don't really recommend people cutting their hair themselves, but you split the hair right down the middle in the back, like so. And what you need to do is you need to take, and this is what I suggest doing if you're doing it at home, is take all of your hair, right, in possibly 1 or 2 sections. If your hair's a bit on the finer side, you can take it in 1 section. If it's thick, maybe take 2 sections where you slide the comb this way, and here's your first section. So you want to try to capture all of this in one shot. What you need to do is thoroughly comb the hair. And again, it may be hard to see this, but what you're looking to do is trim up the ends here. So you're going to bring this forward, and you're going to cut the hair to the length that's desired. And it's going to look like this, okay? Now, the only thing about this, when you bring something forward, remember, this has to travel back. So there is a chance that it's going to be shorter into longer. So you may have some sort of V, right? It's not going to be anything crazy, but you will have a slight V in the back, which is okay, because this whole haircut, again, goes shorter to longer, all right? So comb this all forward. You want to lock in your fingers. You can even grab the whole section like this, and then use your fingers like this, right, to guide it down, and you're going to hold it, and you're going to cut. Okay, you're going to cut. Now, you're not using any guide, so you have to make sure that you're going to be even. And I can't believe even Steven. I nailed it. I'm even Steven right now. It's even on both sides, which is great. So what you need to do is make sure that you have this even on both sides. And then you can comb the hair straight down, and if you want, you can bring everything over, all the way over to this one side, and look, you're going to see that longer piece right in the middle. And then you can also comb everything over. Take all this hair, this is all in one section, comb all this over, again here this way, look for that longer piece, and there it is. And this should help eliminate the really big difference of it going into a super, super long V. But again, you still may have one right here because you're traveling, the hair is traveling from this point out this way, all right? Now, obviously, if you can get someone to help you and cut the back of your hair, that would be great. But what you're really trying to do is, we're going to focus on the layering. But this all plays an important part. So now we're ready to work into the side panel here and then working up into the front. What I suggest doing is now you can comb all this down, you can take that clip out. You really need to think about where you want the shortest piece to be in the front. So if it's, a face frame, you got to realize if you want your hair to be right here, your first angle, you got to make sure you can cut this to blend it all the way in, which may be easy or may not be easy for you. It all depends on the type of look that you want. For this demonstration, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to cut it somewhere around this area, right? Kind of a medium type face frame. So what you can do again is, since we're on the sides here and we're still working on the length, you're going to bring this forward and now you're going to start to angle your scissors. Now with scissors, it's all about hand positioning, flipping the scissors around, cutting this way, doing it yourself may be a little bit difficult, right? But that's where you got to look in the mirror. The mirror can help you. Also, making sure your fingers are really locked in. So once your fingers are locked in, you see the section, the longer hair, you're then going to cut it to that previous section you cut. You don't want to cut into that because that's what you just cut. So now we're working our way up. Here we are in the very, very front. I'm going to rotate my fingers up this way. I can see the longer hair here. Here's the piece from what I previously cut. And you're going to cut right down to that piece. All right? If we have to go shorter into here, there's the longer hair. And you're cutting downwards. What you can then do is bring all this hair forward like this. And by looking in the mirror, you can see and judge if it's even, if it's accurate, right? All the hair comes forward like that. This should be the shortest point in through here, and it's working down into the longer points, which are down here. You can then incorporate all of this into that section by bringing all of this hair forward. I'm just going to turn the mannequin this way. By bringing all this forward like this, and again, making sure that this is always the shortest piece and it works down into the longest piece, right? The easiest thing to do, which I've seen people do themselves, is to just bring the hair forward. You can, again, continue to work away at it until you get your desired length. Same exact thing on the other side. And just remember, this is why I don't suggest trying to do this at home, but just remember, this is only the base. This is only like the foundation of the haircut. When we do the internal layering, I mean, that's a whole other thing, which I'll show you, but it's not the easiest to achieve. You know what I mean? It's might look easy or sound easy, but it may not be the easiest. All right, so now we've done the face framing on this side, and what you're trying to do is you can bring the entire head forward, your hair forward like this. So let's see what that looks like here, right? You bring the entire head forward. Here's what we cut before. Here's a little bit of what we cut, and now we have to work that in to the other side. So there's the shortest piece. What can you do is you cut the angle right to that shortest piece right there. So now what you're doing is you're matching the hair up and you're matching the face frame up. And then what's going to happen is you're going to see the hair that's longer that needs to come off, and you'll be able to blend it all in. So you want it to go shorter out to longer that way. Now it's time to work on the internal shape, right? When I say internal shape, I mean the layers throughout the top and the sides and the back. Now what I do to create very, very consistent layering is I will go back and separate the hair again to separate the front from the back. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a section of hair literally right on the top back of the head like this. And what you want to do is you want to comb the entire section straight up like this. So what it's going to look like in the front of your head, you're going to look like this. You're going to be holding your hair straight up. This is where you're going to be cutting the length for the layers. Now, you don't want to go too short here and have it really long here. You want to make sure that you go back and check to see where the length is on the layers. And you can say, okay, here's the front length right here, and here's all the hair that is in the back. I have to somehow go and connect it from this into this. So what I suggest doing is kind of analyzing where that length is and go up maybe 1.5 inches to 2 inches, and you're going to cut straight across. So you're cutting a straight across section that literally covers the middle and the corners of the hair. So this is perfectly straight. This is your first layer of where you're going to be cutting everything to. Now it's almost like smooth sailing. You're going to take 2 sections, 3 depending on how thick your hair is. You're going to take a section right under that piece on the right or left side. You're going to comb it straight up, and you're going to look to see what we call as a guideline, and you're going to cut those longer hairs off, because that is the hair that needs to come off. So now what you see what I've done is I've evened everything out. Let's try one more section. And the reason I don't suggest going all the way down to the bottom is because sometimes that has a tendency to thin the hair on the bottom too much, depending on how long or how short you cut it. But for this purpose, it's your best bet simply because you only have that one option to comb everything straight up. So in the very, very bottom, if you can or if you want, you can go from the very, very back of your head, right, the neck, all the way down to the neck, and you can comb this, again, straight up, all the way straight up. If you have a lot of hair, this may be a bit of a challenge, but comb this all the way straight up, and you may not see much of anything, but you can cut it straight like that. To show you what this looks like, on this side, this is basically what it looks like. Is this entire section is combed upwards from the very, very bottom, the very, very neck line. And that's how you're going to get an even shape. So then what you're going to do is the exact same thing on the other side, and what's going to be very helpful is that you already have a guide from the previous sections that you cut. So there we go, comb it straight up, there's the guide, and straight across. You always want to try to hold on to this section, and I know it's going to be tough, but you want to hold on to that section somehow so you know exactly where you are and where you're cutting. Comb the hair straight up, and you're going to cut straight across like this. I don't suggest the point cutting thing at all. Don't do it. It's just going to leave out some ends that need to be trimmed, and unless you want a very jagged type of looking haircut, I don't suggest doing the point cutting, because a lot of times you're not cutting the entire section of hair. So here we are once again in the very, very back. We're going to comb this upwards to where, and it's going to feel like a lot of hair. Same thing, comb it all the way up, look for any longer pieces. There may be 1 or 2, and then you can trim it off. See, even I'm having a hard time with all that hair. But that's honestly doing it yourself. That's going to be the most challenging part of this whole thing. So now it's time to work towards the front. And the front is very, very important because you have to make sure that you're blending everything in and that the layers are connected. So the best way that I suggest doing this is to take the section right in front of where you just cut. You're going to bring this straight up, and you're going to be working right in through what I call like a mohawk section, just down the middle first. So comb the hair all the way straight up. There is the guide that we just cut from the previous section, and that is going to be our reference point. So next, take another section right down the middle, and just in the middle, let the sides kind of fall out of that section. Straight up, there's the longer hair, and you're cutting straight across. Again, straight across to the very, very front. Now you can bring the entire front section, the entire front kind of mohawk section straight up, and then you're able to connect the dots here, and there is what needs to be cut. You see how this looks? Everything is brought to this one point, and we have a perfectly even, balanced, layered haircut. We're not finished, however. We have to worry about the sides and the corners now. So the corners are where the head shape rounds out. So what we're going to do, and what you're going to do, is you're going to probably comb on top of the hair, like so, and you can see all that longer hair right there. And what you're going to do is you're going to cut that off. Hold on to that section. You're going to go all the way down to the bottom here. You're going to comb it straight out from your head, and you're going to look to see where the longer pieces are. There may not be many, but that's it. You're not looking to cut the very, very bottom, because that is your length. And if you do this wrong, you're going to end up cutting your length here. But there we go. Hold it straight out from the head. As you can, this is really what you should follow to make sure it looks like this. Here we go on the sides. Very, very important. Watch what we do. Comb this straight out from your head. Keep in mind, this is the length right here. So what you're looking to do is just cut on top of that so you preserve the length. Here we go on this side, right in through the very, very front, same thing. And we're just going to lightly trim that up. Now you have to duplicate this on the other side, which may not be the easiest, but if you can do it, then go for it. Hold on to that piece. We're going to bring us all the way down. Again, it's got to look like very similar to what I'm doing. Comb this straight out. Any of those longer hairs on top are what need to be cut. Same thing, go back. Now we're in the corner again. There's the longer hair. And you want to make sure you're going from all those longer hairs to it looking very, very even. It has to connect. If you are cutting your own hair and it doesn't connect, or things look very, very off, you don't want to take too much, because then you're really going to be in trouble. If you take too much hair off, especially when it comes to layering, it's just going to be very, very choppy, and it's going to be a disaster. Right? It's going to be a disaster. So there's the corner right there. You can see there's a lot of hair that needed to come off right there. I'm going to hold on to that piece, and I'm going to bring this straight out this way, and just extend your fingers all the way to the very, very end. This way you have a good connection there. And then you're done with that. What I suggest doing, if you possibly can, is take a section, again, but this time it's going to be an actual mohawk looking type section right down the middle. So it's going to look like this. And you want to bring this all forward like that and look for any longer hairs. What that's going to do is it's really going to make sure that both sides are balanced. Because if you pull all this hair up and things are way off, this is the best way to find out, because this is what we call cross-checking, or literally we're just going back in to check the haircut. So there we go, as you can see in through here, right? You're bringing everything forward this way. You can even go into the sides and just check to make sure that everything is blended together and in sync. So all of your sections and all the pieces of hair that you are cutting and trying to blend in all are going to look the same. If you see, maybe right there, any longer pieces, just make sure that if you're going to cut the hair, you're cutting it with a purpose to blend it in. Don't just cut hair to cut hair, because you really could have a disaster. Now, when it comes to blow drying it, you can see the hair is still fairly damp. It's not like dripping wet, or it's not bone dry, but it's just enough to be able to work with. I like my crafted blow dry cream. It smells phenomenal. It smells like Black Orchid from Tom Ford, which is a great fragrance. It was inspired by that, the fragrance that we did. And this is just going to give your hair a little bit of hold and a little bit of control. When you blow dry your hair, what you want to make sure you're doing is blow drying it kind of forward in the way that you cut it. You know, however you blow dry your hair. I think if you're watching this, you really understand how to blow dry hair. I have videos on blow drying, but what I want to do is I want to just blow dry part of this so you can see what it looks like. So this was a fairly quick blow dry job here, what I did, and as you can see, even though the hair is in the face, this is kind of what you want, so you can see all the angles and the layers coming forward, right? Blow dry the hair forward this way. Now you can just bring the hair back with your hands like so, right? Rake it back into kind of that center parting close to where we cut it. And ladies and gentlemen, look at that nice, beautiful shape we have, right? If you can do this yourself. But the important part is to realize what you just created is you created a beautiful, balanced shape with some volume, some texture. We kept the length a little bit, and I think the layers look phenomenal. It's really the type of thing where the haircut does all the work. Obviously, the blow dry is going to help, but when cutting hair like this, it's really essential that you take your time and you understand that not everything is going to be perfect, especially if you're cutting it yourself and you're not a professional. Ladies, let me know in the comments below if this video was helpful, if you enjoyed my bad jokes and you want me to keep telling jokes, okay? Stay safe and healthy. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time for more videos with the Salon Guy.